Good afternoon. Welcome to the Town Council Public Input Session, March the 13th, 2021. Can I get a roll call vote?
Buckholz present.
Holloway present.
Grossman present.
Bulmer present.
Let it be known we've established a quorum, and also Vice Mayor Bennett is on his way. He's running a little late, and he should be joining us soon. You have anybody signed up for public comments?
Just one.
Okay.
Mr. Goodman. Phil, you can come up to the microphone.
Okay.
Yep.
So I keep my mask on while I'm speaking?
You can take it off.
Okay. My name is Phil Getkin, and I live at 602 Jefferson Avenue. I just had a couple of comments. I'm interested in our natural assets that we have here. And I was pleased to see in our vision statement that it states that we want to preserve our natural, among other asset resources, for now and for future generations to come. I used to work for the National Park Service, and that sounds pretty familiar to me, but I really like it. So I'm going to be talking just a little bit about, my comments are relative to the natural resources that we have here in town, since it's part of our vision. There's two goals. Incidentally, I thought that the document was very useful, was well organized, and easy to understand, and a very useful document. But two of the goals: to plan for coastal resiliency and to protect and improve public green and open space and infrastructure, were the two things that I am interested in. And the thing that I'm concerned about is I know that we have a tight budget here in town, but I think the priority of those two goals needs to be elevated if possible. And one of the critical things with both of those goals is time. If we wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years to get started on these things, seriously, it may well be too late for some of those things. I know that in the work plan that was set out 2021 and 2022, there was nothing really there for those two items, those two goals. Scientists overwhelmingly acknowledge climate change and global warming. Cape Charles is impacted by that and will continue to do so. Looking back at the University of Virginia's study published in December of 2018, Strategies for Conserving the Green Infrastructure of Cape Charles, I would offer that for further review. Looking at that, there's a lot of good ideas in there. I'm not sure how many of them we've been able to implement at this point in time, but I would ask that we look at some items that are in there, maybe including more detailed objectives under those two goals. Over the last several years, we have had substantial commercial, residential, and industrial development and redevelopment. Most of that's been good, but unfortunately, one of our natural assets, trees, has taken a pretty heavy hit. In my opinion, we have a lot of the tools already in place to take care of our problems with trees. We have our tree conservation preservation ordinance, which is part of the zoning ordinance. I think we really need to start strictly enforcing that if we can. It would do a lot for our trees that we have here in town. Also, I think we need to comply with the tenets of the town's master tree plan. And finally, I think that there are some things that we can do as far as trees go. And I think that we really need to develop and implement, and I think at a pretty reasonable cost, a tree planting plan. You know, we've had a lot of development where trees have had to be taken down. I understand that. If you're going to build a house, if you're going to expand your industrial process, you got to make room. But there are lots of opportunities in our public right-of-ways here in town where we could be planting trees, and it could be, in some cases, alleviating some of the problems that we have, complaints that we do have in town. For example, along Mason Avenue, abutting the Tabby property, there's lots of room to plant trees there. I mean, you don't want to ruin your view, but with the proper trees, I think that you could accomplish a lot there. Not only there, but elsewhere. There's lots of right-of-ways. I've walked every sidewalk in town many times, and I have identified lots of places in the public right-of-way where we could plant good trees that would be very helpful. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. King. Anybody sign?
That's the only one that signed up. I do have several that I received in writing.
Okay.
May I take this off? please?
Yep.
All right. The first one is from Bill Cricket.
Excuse me, because there's no mic.
Can we go
Yeah,
up
we
there?
wanna- Yeah, thank you.
The first one is from Bill Cricket, and it says, "Thank you for the work that you put on this initiative. It's good to have a plan. Since this initial plan is quite broad and does not address the specific implementation and costs of the stated goals and objectives, there is little to disagree with. I would like to address the plan's statement regarding budget shortfall and offer 2 words, and they are not raised taxes. Paid parking. Here are some eye-popping numbers. Dewey Beach, Delaware, population 341, annual parking revenue $1 million plus. Bethany Beach, Delaware, population's 854, annual parking revenue $2+ million. Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, population 1,400, annual parking revenue $6+ million. Lewis, Delaware, population 2,747, annual parking revenue $500,000 plus. Parking revenue information is from the published budgets of the respective towns and is gross revenue before associated expenses. I urge you to seriously consider what could be a very significant source of revenue to not only close any current budget gap, but also to help fund the future of our town." This next one is from Susan Berger. "I was pleased to see volunteerism mentioned in the strategic plan. I have a lot of experience with coordinating volunteer programs, services, and would be happy to volunteer to work with whoever is appropriate to try to help with organizing a volunteer pool within town for various services. I have found if a volunteer program is well run, that volunteers can be depended on to get lots of jobs done, save organizations money, and be valuable resources. I think school and community college also mentioned in the plan. Excuse me. I think there is also ways to incorporate a volunteer initiative with internships and apprenticeships for students, both high school and community college, also mentioned in the plan. It's also a way to foster a lot of public-private partnerships. Please, however is necessary, let this be my comment on the strategic plan. Thank you so much." Libby Gray. "I believe it worth pointing out that 2 items listed separately in the draft strategic plan, A, workforce affordable housing, and B, review of short-term rental regulations are inextricably interlaced and also speak indirectly to sense of community in the plan. If our town is so business-friendly that short-term rental properties are permitted unlimited increase in number, what motive is there for any current property owner to focus on workforce housing? The fact that the vacation rental market compared to residence market is so lucrative is undeniably linked to workforce housing shortage. How does one get homeowners to commit to longer-term rentals? Perhaps an increased fee on short-term rentals could be used to generate a subsidy to offset income loss for homeowners who agree to only rent on a longer-term basis, perhaps 3 or 6-month rental contracts. Or alternatively, a cap on the number of weekly rental properties registered each season would free up housing supply. A cap in rental properties would also allow those owners who did get permits to charge higher rates through basic supply and demand outcomes, creating both higher profits for owners and tax revenues for the town. Either of these ideas could be revenue neutral to the town if executed carefully, and there are probably more clever solutions out there than these. I do not have a rental property, but it seems obvious that if those who do can make 3, 4, or 5 times as much money with weekly Airbnbs compared to renting to young families' workforce, you're just not going to make housing affordable for renters here. So the 2 issues cannot be divorced from each other in discussions. Thank you for your solicitation of community input and your work on this draft strategic plan." From Lisa Buzardo. It says, "Hello, thanks very much to the team of people who put this plan together. and thank you for requesting our input. My husband, Earl Chip Moore, and I live at 156 Sunset Boulevard in Cape Charles. We are full-time residents since 2017 and have owned multiple properties for 10 years. Comments are below. Community values, friendliness, excellent first value. Will be great to encourage friendliness and many of the other values across political differences, come heres versus been heres, full-time versus part-time residents, Bay Creek versus town residents, and all other differences. Our plans underway to post and publicize these values along with the town vision. The more we all see them, the more likely people will live them and hopefully hold ourselves and others accountable. Goals, well written, all very important to the town. Happy to see that the overtly stated goal to become a tourist mecca has not been included. The stated goals may encourage tourism, but not for tourism's sake alone. Objectives, glad to see encouraged citizen engagement on page 5. Maintain improved walkability, page 6. Sidewalks will be excellent to have consistently throughout the community. However, the enforcement of installing sidewalks is not fair or equitable. Someone buys an empty lot and is required to pay for the installation of sidewalks in order to receive their occupancy permit. Someone buys an existing home but is not required to put in sidewalks. This is not fair. All transfers of property ownership should require sidewalks to be installed where they do not exist. Safe golf cart culture, page 6. Enhancing golf cart infrastructure should not be at the expense of non-golf cart owners. Everyone is not interested in this culture. Registration fees, taxes, fines, and other revenue-generating ideas should be created to fund these changes. Is there a personal property tax on golf courts? Golf carts, as there is on cars and boats? Better enforcement of rules is critical. As of now, nothing is enforced, at least as it appears. We see people drinking alcohol in their carts. We see clearly underage children driving carts, either alone or on the laps of their parents. Traffic rules are barely obeyed. We've seen drunken or what seem to be impaired teens, kids driving carts up and down the boardwalk on Bay Avenue. In general, they are a danger, a nuisance, and an inconvenience to law-abiding citizens. We and several of our neighbors refer to their behavior as vacation brains. Review and update the ordinances and guidelines of the Historic District Review Board, page 6. Not only HDRB, but also zoning and planning related. Realtors must be required to thoroughly disclose the town's ordinances and guidelines to potential property buyers. As we listen in on the various board Zoom calls, it sounds like the new property owners are being turned down for renovations or expansions that they should have known were unlikely to be approved. Why did they think that they could do these things when they purchased the properties? For example, new Cool Eats owner C1R1 properties. Previous owners of the Kellogg building who sold since they could not renovate as hoped. Rumor or truth? Church at the corner of Strawberry and Madison. Various porch renovations. Setback requirements from the Chesapeake Bay, etc. There needs to be better communications between the potential buyers, realtors, and the town so buyers aren't sadly disappointed in their purchase. Protect and maintain the harbor, page 7. Don't understand what the RFP is requesting. Determine market forces necessary to promote healthy balance. Could this be clarified? As longtime boaters up and down the Chesapeake Bay and beyond, coming to towns with a great mix of commercial and recreational harbor cultures make the destinations much more interesting. Retaining the watermen and charter boats in the harbor is more enticing and quaint than the sterile corporate feeling found in some marinas such as Cambridge, Hyatt, and Kingsmill. Please don't push them out. Keep the traditions alive. Hold Cape Charles Yachting Center accountable for running the harbor marina as the town wants it to be run, not as New Englanders think it should work. Improve business access to workforce resources and advance a variety of housing options for younger families and workforce, page 7. Good objectives. To enable the town to support the businesses that we love, restaurants, shops, galleries, etc., there must be a worker-friendly culture. Glad to see these included. Implementation. Annual citizen survey. Excellent idea. Taxes. Very sore subject. Here are some general comments. The town has not significantly raised taxes in 12 years. At this time, property values are increasing. That will increase revenue without increasing the tax rates. What other ideas exist for raising revenue beyond tax percentages? Possibly consider increases on rental income residences similar to the Floridian model. Full-time homesteaders lower taxes versus part-time rental residents. The full-timers are the ones who support the CC businesses year-round. Fear of water and sewer rate increases due to potential takeover of the water sewer by an outside firm. These rates are already high. What will be the impact of this potential change? Personal property tax, generally shocking. Is it legal to be taxed by both the town and county? Is revenue being lost by having residents register their property in other states or counties, cars, boats, RVs, etc., due to the crazy expensive personal property tax? Do retirees realize the extent of this taxation? Now, of course, it is up to all of us to research this before moving here, but those of us coming from other states have never heard of this type of taxation. We will never buy another high-end new vehicle while living here. Would more residents purchase boats and patronize the marinas if the property tax was not so high? States like Florida and Delaware are becoming more attractive for retirees. In general, cost of living is increasing, food, gas, etc., making relocation and retirement a challenge. Many of the people considering a move to Cape Charles fall into this category. Planning horizon. Understand the need for resources, both human and financial, but 6 years sounds very long. Work plans. Please summarize the items targeted for 2021 and 2022. I could go through and mark anything not listed on the fiscal year 23 and beyond list, but it would be helpful to have the 21 and 22 list outlined in the document. Disappointing to see items like programs with high schools, Eastern Shore Community College, job fairs and internships delayed until 2023 and beyond. Business owners and other retirees in the town should be able to assist with these. Well thought out document overall. Thanks again for the hard work and the request for comments. If anything that has been written above could use some clarification, please let us know. Very sincerely. From Frank and Andrea Giardina at 301 Madison Avenue. We reviewed the draft of the plan and feel it touches on many important issues. We would just like to add a few thoughts or ideas to consider as follows. Cleaner water. Recycling pickup. It seems that many people just throw away recyclables in the regular trash because they don't feel like driving it to the recycling center. Beaches. There are pilings on the water that can be hazardous as they go underwater when the tide is up. Plus, is it reasonable to have daily beach cleanup? Home renovations. It seems the process is complicated and unclear to the average homeowner. Thank you. This one is from Diane Davis. In the section entitled Our Community Values, I think you should really pay close attention to that list because it needs to be realized that these values are for the entire town, not just for a particular group of people. When you say caring, wonder who we are supposed to be caring about. This town now is mostly centered around retirees that have moved here, which is great, and tourism. Adaptability is just a word now. What is happening now is that we are planning our town as a special place for retirees who are moving here. Caring. I read this document several times and I did not see one thing included as recreation for our children. Yes, Cape Charles, we do have some children living here year-round. We have a very nice park that can always be used if you want to play soccer or tennis. We have the kids playground for children up to 12 years old. Well, what about the other children? Why is it that after all these years we have not been concerned enough about our children to put something in the park for them? We could at least have it so that they can play volleyball and basketball anytime. It is a shame that we have all this great publicity about our town and activities for our children are left completely out. In the summer, we have music in the park that is well attended by adults. This is usually a great time for the adult to have fun, but the park should be more than that. I was really excited when the talk first started about the park because I just knew that it would be a place for our children to play and have fun. Once the park was completed, it seemed to have become a place for adults to come and have fun. This park is such a nice place. We need to have something there so that it can be used by more of our children. The places where I have seen parks were always children-friendly. Please make our park friendly for all people. When I say all people, I'm talking about the children, teenagers, and adults. As a concerned citizen and concerned about recreation for our children, I do believe in the park. I not only donated to the park, but I spent time working there when help was needed. Again, please do not forget recreation for our children in your future plans. Town clerk, have you really looked at the responsibilities of your town clerk? You should have the title of administrative assistant in addition to town clerk and FOIA officer. Plus, she should be paid accordingly. It would be very hard to replace Mrs. Libby Hume with all the experiences she has, as well as her responsibilities. Please pay attention to your employees that you many times just take for granted. Mrs. Hume is definitely an asset to you and to your town. Thank you, Diane. I did not read these ahead of time. The last one is from Jim Granger at 524 Jefferson Avenue. Mayor Dice, members of Town Council. Overall, I think the strategic plan is a very solid plan. It balances the many aspects of the town that make Cape Charles a wonderful place to live, particularly the beach and downtown. That said, I think it overlooks a typically overlooked segment of our population and some key potential partners. Cape Charles is one of the most affluent towns on the Eastern Shore, and more money is pouring into town. Unfortunately, that is squeezing the less affluent families in town, particularly those in the Seabreeze Apartments and Myrtle Landing. We also have a large number of senior citizens in town. I feel that the town needs to consider those populations and their needs in the strategic plan. We are also fortunate to have 9 churches in town, including Trinity United Methodist Church, which hosts the food bank of the Lower Eastern Shore. I think the town should include churches in its community partnerships, especially since they focus more on the lesser privileged citizens of the town. Sincerely.
Is that it? Thank you very much, Ms. Libby. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.